Okay. Well, it's been quite a night. We've been doing these for, oh, I would say over 2 years. And so it ceases to amaze me that we keep running into unique and challenging technology issues. So fortunately, we've got the echo figured out, and we should be good for the rest of the night. So here are my questions. In the first hour, we had JD, Cynthia, Michelle, Tasha, Daniela, Amanda, Lauren, Travis, and Christine. Um, you didn't get a chance to ask a question. So I am going to have you guys go first, unless you in the chat room tell me you're okay or the question somehow got answered. If you want to, then after those people, because we'll be able to get through those people, if you have a question, and I know there were some that had a bunch for Pete, if you want to ask your questions for Pete of John, either John and I can kind of wing it and figure out what we want to do. So just let me know if you have other questions. So yes. So what I will do is when I tell you to get on, I enable you and you'll see a microphone and a video camera. Then just click that on, keep your mic muted, but just have it ready to go once you have your, once we ask for your question. And we're going to put two people on at a time. So one's asking the question, then John knows the next person that's up. Okay, so Daniela, thank you. Kristen, gee, you got all kinds of questions answered. Amanda. Okay, so um, so Brenda, Lorna, Carolyn, Lisa, Christine, Regina, you had questions for Pete. Let me know if you want to. I'll put you in after these other ones unless you tell me you're okay. Okay, Michelle, you're okay. And everyone's dropping like flies, so. So let's go ahead and start with, at least we'll get you on the screen. JD and Cynthia, I'm going to enable your mics. Okay. Cynthia Hanyok, you are enabled. And JD, you are enabled. So if you want to just go ahead and jump on. And Tasha, I'm going to enable you in just a second. Okay, so you three, if you guys want to go ahead and get on, that would be great. Okay, don't all jump on at once. And Lauren, I enabled you also. So if you want to jump on, you can. And Lorna, let me just get you. Okay, Lorna, you're okay. Hey, Clark.
Hey there.
We are we having some kind of fun tonight?
I'm loving it.
Good. I know. We're good.
A
So,
lot of times in the third hour, we drop the numbers. I see we're down to 96 now. I don't know if that's gone. If it drops, I'll come back in as an administrative
okay.
host to the side.
Okay. Okay. So, students, if you actually, I know you had some friends that have texted you, they can't get on. At the top, you'll see next to the attendees the number. So, right now, text your friends and say they can get on because we have 4 spaces. So, that's a good problem that we will have fixed in November when we meet again. So we won't have that problem. Somehow we'll figure something out. So,
We'll get a seminar room,
yeah, yeah. Well, what we
CUI meeting
found,
room.
that's right. Yes, we will. So that's a good problem to have. So, well,
All
hopefully
right.
you guys appreciated Pete as much as I did. The transparency and vulnerability, it was terrific. And those are the kind of pastors and leaders that we need, and the depth of what can happen in the church. And you can see that a lot of what you've experienced at kickoff, which John and I say, this can happen in the church. And I've seen it happen in our church. We've done those groups. Pete's had those churches. So um, my encouragement to you is you can find ways to get those going in your church. And if I can be of any help, and we have some other resource people to talk about how to set that up, just let us know. So we need some people on. So JD, Cynthia, Tasha, Lauren, um, Lorna. There we go. Yes, Lauren, way to be. Good. I'm out here, so because when John comes on, he says, "So where are they at?" They're there. They're coming. So thank you. You saved me. Okay, good. So there he is. Hey, buddy.
Well, did everybody have a great time in their
Hey,
bio
we're
break
rocking
and
and rolling.
refreshment and go out and decide to be healthy for a few minutes before we go and finish this last hour of learning and growth?
Yes. Yep. So yes, they really enjoyed Pete, the vulnerability, transparency, and what you're able to do in the church. So I think, and
We've been
again,
saying
that's kind of what we've
also,
been saying.
it didn't come up a lot, but guys, it's important. He's not trying to talk you out to get, he's not trying to get business away from us. He's trying to get us the business that only we can do. He believes deeply in therapy. And I'm telling you, if the church was doing more about this kind of stuff, about vulnerability and attunement at a lay level, people would be coming to you guys in droves because they would go, oh, this is what matters, and I want a specialist. So I love how he's such a win-win with our profession as well as how the church functions. It was very, very helpful information. So, Scott, I think we have Lauren up here, do we?
Yes, we do.
Hello, my name's Lauren, and I'm from Austin, Texas. So I got my Texas hat on today. But I actually was intrigued by what you said right at the beginning of your talk, John, which was that codependency is a word that we've come up with the past 30 years. And I was curious, what do you think are the reasons that codependency is more prominent in our society than it was maybe before that, or do you think it's just that we've noticed it more?
I think two things. It is more noticed because now we have a language for it. Before it was just, I'm burning out because I live with an addict, and there was nowhere they could go or anywhere. So now the people that are struggling with that kind of have a language like, oh, I enable and I rescue and my self-care is bad and blah, blah, blah. And it really helps them. So much of a treatment is just an accurate diagnosis when people say, oh, that's what I've got. And they feel enormous relief. But It is worse, unfortunately. I mean, here I am, selling, several million books on boundaries, and it's worse. So, but the fact is that with the breakdown of culture and family and how that affects character structure, we have a lot of people who are drawn to an addict, an alcoholic, a narcissist, serious borderline sociopaths. They're just drawn to them and don't have enough of a self yet to say that's not good for me. And so when you put an addict with a codependent, you know what you get. They get married. That's what happens. And so, that's why Scott and I are excited about how many numbers of you guys are getting this and understanding what's underneath it, because you will have, I never thought that the church is supposed to save the world. I don't think the world's going to end up that way. But I do believe that we're called to do our part, kind of like Catcher in the Rye. We're keeping as many of them from falling off that ledge as possible. And so it's worse, but we know what we're doing. So thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Okay, Chuck, go for
Hey
it.
guys, awesome. Hey John, Chuck Edwards. I'm in Wichita, Kansas. Hey, looking forward to walking across the stage next semester as long as Scott passes me this semester an internship. So excited about that. Bringing my whole family.
Well, I don't know if I'd be too excited yet, buddy. We got a long way.
I know. So John, I'm a part of a really healthy church. I believe that a lot of the things that Pete probably speaks to, we do well already. We've got our person who's in charge of groups just graduated from your organizational leadership program, and she's phenomenal. I feel like we're doing all the right things in terms of training our group leaders. Here's my question, because we're looking to get me through the program and then make a push towards process groups was where we were headed. And getting some training, getting some people trained, and looking at how that might add or benefit our church outside of regular small group experiences. My question is, have you been through Pete's training, and would you recommend the process that he is offering over where should I spend my energy? Where should we spend our energy as a church in the future, knowing those things about us?
I have a personal mission. No, I have not been through Pete's training. I've been through Pete, and like him a lot, know him well. I haven't been through training, but everything I know about him has been really good quality, well thought out. I have a personal mission to make what you guys are learning at Institute a part of normal discipleship. That understanding character structure, attunement, mismatching, as a normal part of, you come to the church, you find Christ, you get saved, you learn, the disciplines of church attendance and surrender and the Holy Spirit and baptism and the Lord's Supper. You also learn about your family of origin. You understand what your issues are in attachment or separation or integration, adulthood, and you learn how to process feelings in the new family called the family of God. I would love to make that the normalization of the 350,000 churches in the country. However, what I suggest to folks like you who have a passion for that is get the best process training you can get for yourself, and then go and either do it, if you could be a trainer, you got to be good to be a trainer, or to outsource it. One person I depend on a lot, who's really excellent, is Dennis Del Valle. And Scott can give you his contact information. He's one of the best in the country. He's deeply involved with us here at the Institute and also TLP, and trains people around the country. And he goes to churches and trains their people on process group, because he already has the manuals, he has the scripts. You don't have to write that stuff. A guy like Dennis is he's very busy because the churches all want him, and we send him everywhere. But then it's kind of turnkey, Chuck. That's the first place I'd probably go, unless you're at your career life mission.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, buddy. You bet.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. I'd love that info. Thanks.
Email me and I'll send it to you. My good friend Tasha.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear
Hear you
me?
just fine.
Okay, beautiful. Hi, John. And my heart just goes out to Barbie and to you. Just want you to know I'm lifting you up in prayer.
We covered your prayers, and thank you, Tasha.
Thank you. So I'm Tasha Owens, and I live in San Ramon, which is a part of the San Francisco Bay Area. And my question has to do with your wonderful overview of what we should do as we're treating codependents. I'm a very strong codependent. So I have some great challenges.
Now you
And
mean
I live
strong,
my
you mean
life,
the codependency within you is strong. Like the force within you is
it's
strong. Okay.
strong. Oh my word. And sometimes it can really be over the
Okay.
top. So one of the question that I have for you is, I continue to work through therapy and I continue to work on myself. I started thinking about transference and countertransference and how that all might impact the relationship I have with a client. So what recommendations would you have for me as as a codependent, work on my own self, so that I don't become too codependent with my clients as I go into hopefully private practice one day?
Well, number one, let's make your standards a little bit higher. Let's don't say I don't want to be too codependent. You want to be no codependent. You want to be
Okay.
full of grace and full of truth. You want to
Yes.
be full of love and full of autonomy and differentiation. So don't say, "Oh, I'm less codependent." That's not success for you. You can do better. What I
Okay.
found is really helpful is to don't really bring what you see with your clients into your own personal therapy as a rule sometimes, but you spend so much of your time in your supervision on your codependency with your clients because supervision is for that. And a really good depth supervisor will say, well, right then, why didn't you kind of question that or confront that? And you might say, okay, what was I thinking right then? I was thinking they reminded me of how vulnerable I was at that age, and it might really wound them. And then the supervisor says, yeah, well, but you had a really tough situation having to be the strong one in your family, Tasha, and this person's got you, and they can tolerate that. And then you begin to make the connection. So bring it up a little bit in your therapy. It's always good, but most of the time, bring it in. I have found that in the supervision I've gotten, that the transference, the two things that made my supervision worth gold was number one, accurate diagnosis
Yeah.
on a character structure level. Where's attachment? Where's separateness? Where's integration? Where's adulthood? And number two, what was the counter transfers and transfers? They'd come out of the session and I would just go, oh my gosh, I was living my life through my patient's head. And thank you so much. So spend most of your time. Don't talk technique too much in supervision. Talk transference, countertransfer. What happened when they said that? Well, I felt sad. Why'd you feel sad? Well, it reminded me of mom or whatever. It's so helpful. The other thing is go through the didactic outline I sent out and just circle like the two top trigger points for you. Every codependent has things that are really hard for them, like guilt or anger or feeling like they've had a choice and that sort of thing. And just go, I'll pay attention to those. There's an old statement in business, Tasha, that says, what is noticed improves. The things you circle, God will take your brain and you will improve those. All right.
Great.
Take care.
Thank you.
Who we got? Is this Lorna? Hi, Lorna. Can't hear you. Is there a nice little mute button or unmute button or anything anywhere?
No.
A little bit. You're almost loud enough. That was better.
Okay, is that any better?
Yes. Stay right there. That's perfect. You're in good shape.
All right, thanks. So I was reading the field experience, I'm a new student to your program, but I was reading the field experience manual, looking ahead towards the internship, and Pete mentioned.
Lorna, where are you in the world?
Oh, sorry, Ketchikan, Alaska.
Hi.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, so there's no Christian counselors in our community. And as I look ahead to the internship, it's really important to me to be able to train and learn under a counselor that is Townsend trained, or like Pete talked about, the 400 churches that are using his program. We have the flexibility to move next year down south. Summers will be spent back up here operating a retreat for widows and their children and pastors in need of food. But anyway, I'm wondering how.
Now your sound is worse.
Okay, is that any better?
No, before you moved that thing you had in your lap, it was better.
All right, is that any better?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, now that's good right there. Don't move anything in your room but your mouth.
Okay, I'm not gonna breathe. So I'm just looking for information, or if you could give us resources. I was reading through the field training experience manual to be able to find places to train well in our internships. That's my biggest question tonight.
I think we need to speak to the expert on that. That's not me, that's Scott. Scott, can you help Lauren in this question?
Yes, I can. Tell me just a touch. You're not wanting to go someplace. You want something in your area, correct?
So I'd like to come back to my community and be able to be used here by the Lord. But we are able to leave the community for like a school year, spend summers back here for my internship. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So you can go anywhere. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. My husband's retired. Our youngest son will be graduating.
Oh.
So we have flexibility. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know of several counseling centers, so if you email me, I can connect you to those. One of those is one that I founded here in Indiana, and you'll get a great opportunity there, as well as I don't work there anymore, but I know the people who do that. But there are other ones that I can connect you with also. So just email me, and if you can go places, we can set you up with some really excellent opportunities.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Lisa, hi. Yeah,
Can you hear
just
me?
got you.
Okay.
A little bit
Hi.
louder, Lisa. Turn up a
My
little bit more, or talk a little bit
condolences
louder. So much better.
Better? Hi. Yay.
Hi.
Hi. My condolences to you and
Thank
your
you very
family.
much.
Yeah. So you took Pete Scazzera's
Where are
training.
you in the world, Lisa?
Oh, sorry, I'm from California, Central Coast between San Francisco and LA.
I didn't take Pete's training.
Yeah,
I'm a friend of Pete's, and I read his work, but I haven't taken his training.
okay, because I was wondering if it teaches sort of pastors and maybe church ministry leaders sort of protocols to follow for safety structures for people who come in. Usually churches are the first time responders to domestic violence and trauma. And in my experience in kind of lay counseling and working in with Mending the Soul, we're getting a lot of spiritual abuse sufferers, trying to repair that. So I really like the protocols they try to bring into churches, but like I don't know if Pete's program kind of brings that structure in and kind of helps them with the first aid, and then where to direct them or how to handle them until they direct them off. Because a lot of pastors and leaders I've seen that they work out of their scope
it's a
of
big problem in
training.
lots of areas. I would just say go to the website and see if they have that information, some kind of table of contents, and if not, call their office and say, do you guys cover this in your material? But it's a really good question, Lisa, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Is it Jaddy or JD? I can hear you
JD,
great.
can you hear
Hi.
me? Oh, you can. Hi, great. I was, when you
Where
were
in the world are
talking
you
about
from?
frustrating compliance. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm JD Gray and I'm in Minneapolis.
The Twin Cities.
Yes. The one of the two that's really
Listen to this.
the city. Just kidding. Okay, so I'm separating well.
Yeah. Don't worry about that
But
structure. Go
when
to
you were
some other
talking
ones.
when you were talking about frustrating compliance with codependents, I was wondering how you would help the codependent to believe that freedom is for them too.
Why would they not?
Because they're wanting to do and live in such a way as to enable the person that
Guess
they're
what, Jenny?
enabling.
This is your night. It's
They feel
time
like,
for a role play.
wow.
All right.
Okay.
So you're going to be the intractable, stuck codependent who doesn't believe in freedom because it's about other people. And I'm going to be the ideal JD, who's the killer therapist who heals everybody just by looking at them these days. And let's see. You bring up something that shows that you don't care about that. I'll bring up the freedom aspect and you kind of dismiss it and see what happens, okay? So
Okay.
I'll call you Sue. So Sue, I understand you're burnout and that you give a lot of things to people. It seems like you don't have a lot of freedom of choices, and it feels like you're kind of in a prison of sort of taking care of people.
Mm-hmm. It feels that way. But I'd rather, when I try to assert myself, people get upset. I'm called selfish and all kinds of things. So it's easier to just
that's
go along with it.
Like people that are reported to you? Oh, do you have a memory of like a recent one of those? This is a big deal. That's hurtful.
Sure. Let's see. So, well, there was something that I was managing and wanted to manage it. And I was told that it was inappropriate for me to manage it on my own and it needed to be managed jointly or by the other
You mean
person.
this is a work situation?
But it was something that was.
This is a work situation?
Huh?
What is manage?
No.
I thought about work when you said the word manage. What, can you be a little more specific?
It's something financial.
Can it be more specific than that?
It's
Okay.
inheritance.
So there was an inheritance that was due you, and you took control of the situation because it was your resource, right? Okay. And somebody in your life said you're not supposed to.
Said that it should be managed
Did
together.
the other person that we're talking about, did they have the same rights and privileges to the resources and money that you did?
They didn't have any.
So what was their reason for saying that it should be done by them conjointly with you when it wasn't their money?
Because it was my husband.
You got some money. Husband said, I need to do this with you. And so then what happened, I guess, was you tried to assert yourself, and he caused enough conflict and overpowering that you just felt like it's just not worth it to fight, and so you gave in.
Actually, that time I didn't give in. But what happened as a result of my not giving in, when I said I really feel that this is my responsibility, there was an angry outburst in a restaurant. I stepped aside for about 10 minutes and said, came back, still angry, left the restaurant, dangerous driving home, things like that.
So that's awful.
So
you must have
the
felt
situation,
so attacked and so helpless.
mm-hmm.
What did you do with those feelings?
Well, I went to see a counselor and talked about kind of some of the situations, and was told that basically that I needed to be Jesus with skin on, so that he would see, so that his stuff would rise to the surface.
Did the counselor that told you to be Jesus with skin on tell you about other things Jesus did, such as confront Pharisees and also keep the dust off your sandals and let your yes be yes and your no be no? Did they tell you those passages as well as the submission passages, or only the submission passages?
They did, but they didn't really encourage them. I mean, they did say it, but it felt like it was like I was maybe being told one thing and
All right,
encouraged
so
another
what
thing.
I'm hearing from your narrative
So,
is that I think you've got some unbalanced counseling, and it sounds like you agree with that. It doesn't sound like you're adhering to that. Is that correct?
I am not adhering to that. I did leave that counselor, and I did, because I finally started to connect what the Bible was saying with what I was reading. They were actually recommending your books. Thank you very much. So I was reading about boundaries and responsibility, but I wasn't being counseled to allow the other person to uphold responsibility. So it was hard for me as the codependent to believe that freedom was for me. I would get glimpses of it, but then I would fall back into the old patterns. So that's where I was wondering, is there a way to encourage that?
Yeah.
Freedom is for
Well,
everyone.
let me give you two reasons. One is Galatians 5, which says it was for freedom that Christ died to set us free. Do not go, therefore, back to a yoke of slavery. We're commanded to own our freedom. So there's number one, is it's as clear as daylight, just like love one another and love God, be free. The second one is, I think you have some emotional and relational experiences with people that sort of taught you that it's going to be so heinous. I mean, I'm feeling like crying myself right now, thinking about you in that restaurant, just trying to hold your own to something that's rightfully yours and getting attacked like that. So heinous and so abusive and so awful. It's sort of like, why even go after freedom? Every time I assert myself, bad things are going to happen. Here's my second point. When we are new to individuation and freedom, we must get lots of training experiences with the right people, safe people. And what safe people do, one way you can tell out of the 7 or so characteristics of a safe person, Sue, is that they embrace and support your freedom. And when you say to a safe person, I think the money's mine, I need to deal with it, a safe person say, no, I disagree with that. And you go, oh, why? Well, X, Y, Z. Then you go, all right, I hear your point of view, but I'm still going to take, I'm dealing with the money myself. And a safe person will go, great, I'm glad you chose. Did you want a Chardonnay or did you want a Cabernet? They don't have an issue with your freedom once you've had a good discussion about it. They embrace your freedom. So we do what the Bible says, and we practice with people that like our boundaries and our freedom and don't react and have a tantrum with them. I think you got a bad training experience from your husband. Okay, break. What was that like, Jaden?
Thank you. It was helpful. It was helpful. It still is kind of, I think there's been a pattern of saying one thing and enforcing something else, not just with the counselor, but kind of, so always trying to navigate that. So
I don't know who's to do with the enforcing here. I didn't tell you to enforce anything. You said, say one thing and enforce, and I was trying to give you choices, so I didn't, where was I enforcing anything?
No, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about the
Oh, look, they're
previous
knuckleheads.
counselor.
Let's get to reality. You're trying to learn how to work with your codependent clients on owning and enjoying their freedom. So,
Mm-hmm.
did that experience bring you closer to helping them with that?
Yes, it did, because you gave scripture and you also gave specific things that someone could do to help think about the relationships and how people are interacting, what kinds of things people are saying, and examples of this is a person who loves your freedom. And
Let me add one more piece to it. You also got to do
Yeah,
a certain amount of emotional work with them, which is to help them to process the terror of their freedom. So the Bible, some skills,
yes,
and then how awful it is, how traumatic it is, how alone you feel. Because otherwise, they're just going to make a cognitive decision and it won't go deep in their character. So make sure you do the emotional piece too, and you can really help it. You'll get them out of jail with that approach. Well, thank you for being the lab rat for 100 people tonight. All right. Good. Eugene, hey, man.
Bye-bye.
I'm good, sir.
Hi, Dr. Townsend. How are you? Okay, name is Eugene. I'm from LA, and it's good to be able to talk to you. The question that I have is, I grew up with the Billy Graham model of men and women relationship. There shouldn't be any. That you don't meet with anyone of the opposite.
Oh, you just made my night. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that you don't meet with anyone of the opposite gender one-on-one. So before I took your course, my mindset was I was only going to see.
By the way, I just got to.
That was it. But
I don't think Billy Graham really thinks thought there should be no relationship. I was laughing because of what you said, but actually, I don't agree with everything he said, and we'll get to that. But I don't think he said nothing. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So
okay, go ahead.
Model. Yeah. So that's what I thought. But then, I come to the process group and there's half of them are, females, and I had a really great time connecting. It was really powerful. And then I read under the relational needs of leader, under sexuality, it states that we should have other opposite gender relationship. So, and then with the whole Willow Creek, thing happened recently, even in our church, there's this whole thing about if you're a male pastor, and I'm a pastor, by the way, that you need to be very, very careful, almost like drawing a strong boundary. So the question is, do you recommend having opposite gender clients as I become a counselor? Why not? That's something that
unless you've got some kind of an untreated issue within yourself, it's a yes. Now, if you're a sexual predator or an untreated sexual addict, or it's some out of control behavior, or you've got a lot of sociopathic or narcissistic tendencies to exploit women, well, yeah, then it's like saying the alcoholic should not be tending bar, right? It's the same issue. But if you don't have those issues, I don't see a problem with it at all. Did you have a chance to read my white paper that I wrote to be focused on the family's position paper on this? I think Eugene might be frozen. Eugene?
I think you're right.
Can we unfreeze him?
So we can't, but I would just continue to answer the question. If he doesn't have the white paper, I will send it to him once you send it to me, because I don't think I have it.
Oh, you
but
don't?
anyways,
Oh, we got
I'll
to
send
get
it to the
Let me
students.
make a note of that.
Okay.
Gene and team,
Yeah, the students are blowing up the chat saying, "Yes, I want that paper. Send it to me. Send it to me." So,
yeah,
there you go.
absolutely. Several years ago, everybody knows who Focus on the Family is.
Can you hear me?
They contacted me and said, we don't have a white paper on opposite sex friendships in marriage, and everybody's going crazy about it, and can you write something? So I wrote their position paper on it, and what I did was I talked about the fact that there's half the population of the world is one gender and half is the other. And so when you talk about your 22 relational nutrients, you say all those things that they can provide better than a man can't get those. All those things that they can provide better than a woman, because everybody's got specialty nutrients. Men are better at some stuff and women are better at stuff. But I can't have those. And I thought that was entirely inefficient of God to do that. So I don't think God did that. I think that we are supposed to give each other the 22 relational nutrients. And it's worked really well with the people that I work with and in my own life. And my wife's got guy friends that I love, and we love them together. And I've got gal friends that my wife loves, and it's worked out great over a 30-year marriage. What I did in the paper then was I said, let's look at the friendships in the Bible, Paul's relationship with some women and this sort of thing, and just how we were intended to be able to be grace and truth with each other. And then you got to talk about the parameters. If there's been sexual exploitation or predatory behavior or whatever, well, then somebody's got to go away and get well before they can be safe with that. But otherwise, absolutely. We'll send it to you, buddy. It's got the neuroscience and the Bible and all that good stuff, and that's what they use. All righty. Cynthia, howdy. Keep pressing. Just press a bunch of buttons. We'll get you on there. Just press your iron, press your stove, press your microwave. Nope, not yet. Press the ignition on your car. Not yet. Not yet. Press on. Just. Scott, anything we can do to help her, or is it kind of the way it is?
She's enabled. It'll just be her finding at the top. There's a green microphone.
See a little green microphone at the top, Cynthia?
If you can click on that green microphone, it's next. Not yet.
Cynthia, what if you've got the best question of the night? We've got to have this happen.
How about now?
Oh!
There you go. You're there.
Okay, here's my question. All right, so you talked about anger, and you talked about normalizing anger.
Cynthia, where in the world are
Colorado.
you?
So I'm from the Focus on the Family territory, so I can't wait to read that paper, by the way. So talk to me about anger. You spoke about normalizing anger and helping people normalize anger. I grew up in deep South Southern culture. Be a nice girl. And so I know I get angry.
Oh, you're freezing up
and
on me.
I have problems. How's that? Better?
Cynthia, I'm sorry. I'm getting every third word or every fourth word. Scott, can we help poor Cynthia?
Yeah, I actually can hear you, Cynthia. So why don't you tell me, and I'm going to type it in for John. So I know I get angry. So keep going.
Yes. So I get angry, but I'm from that little southern population in the world where you have to be nice. So how do you normalize that anger and help people to deal with anger in a really healthy way in confrontation so that you can get out of this codependent part of that? Just expand on normalizing anger.
Okay, Scott, you don't need to type it. That was really clear. Okay, great question. Thanks, Cynthia. First, you have to understand the function of anger. The function of anger, why God gave it to, one of the reasons He gave it to us was to help us to separate. You cannot separate and be your own person if you don't have anger. Anger is like a little ignition switch in a car. It just kind of pushes you away from the other person. So you go, oh, I've got my own feelings and I've got my own thoughts. And it kind of made me mad when you made fun of me or controlled the conversation at dinner. And it helps you realize, oh, I can still love somebody but I can also be different. So it's a separating emotions. And it helps a lot of codependents to go, oh, I see the value there. It really helps me to own guarding my heart and owning my life and all those good things the Bible tells me. However, they do have lots of fears, so you've got to help them work through the fears next. They see, I want you to pay attention here, team. I haven't yet said, here's what you do to be angry, because they are terrified. They're panicked about it. We're just talking about what the Bible says to get the cognitive part right, and then we go into, what are you afraid of? Well, I saw my dad blow up, and it was scary. Or we never talked about it in my family because I'm from a particular part of the world, so I don't even know what it looks like. And if you have no experience of an emotion, you never think of it as good. You think of it as catastrophic. You'd be like saying, I never saw an anxious person. Well, then anxiety must be a panic attack. I never saw a sad person. Well, then sad must mean tears and falling apart. I never saw an angry person. Well, that means somebody's going to kill you with a machete. We always catastrophize the experience that we don't have, which is what you're saying that you have because nobody could do it. So it's always gets catastrophized. So you work through that and they begin to see, oh, no wonder. And then as they understand that, then they're less afraid of it. And then, as they're working through their normal material, I had an issue that happened at the gas station, or something happened to my kid or whatever, then what you'll say is, you'll either say, if you saw anger, you might say, you sounded kind of frustrated there. You know, in the TPRAT, in the TPRAT, there's hundreds. I'm sorry?
Just keep going.
In the TPRAT, there's 116 emotions in the back part of it, and they're categorized. There's like a bunch of them, maybe 10 or 15 about anger. And you use little nuanced words like, your voice sounded a little bit frustrated, or you sounded irritated. You don't say, you sounded homicidal, like you want to slash somebody's head off. That's a little extreme. You sounded frustrated. You sounded perturbed. You sounded annoyed. And a lot of times the codependent will go, okay, maybe I was. Okay, now you've got the wedge in there. If you didn't see anything, then you say, I felt some anger for you. I felt a little protective of you. I got kind of mad at that person at the 7-Eleven or whatever. And they go, you're the nice Christian therapist. Yeah, I did too. So you begin making these little entrees into it, either what you see in them or what you think they should be feeling underneath or what you're feeling toward them. That's how you normalize it. And then after a while, you use stronger and stronger words until, you got to realize they have a part in this process that is just dying to be heard until they finally go, well, that made me so darn mad I wanted to slap that guy. And you go, okay, that's just kind of normal behavior. So you move it biblically, you move it in terms of dealing with the resistances and taking away from catastrophe, and you move into the session.
Thank you very much. Part of you froze, but I'm going to re-listen to that.
Okay.
On the replay.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Hey, Christine.
Hello, Hello, I'm from Atlanta. I didn't get to say that the first time. My question in the first half was concerning the codependency and family relationships. So, my family of origin, if you express any displeasure, if you turn down any requests, you are usually punished with withdrawal, silence, anger, and it doesn't resolve itself. Like, since I've been putting up boundaries, less and less interaction with the family. Most days, it seems like that's okay, except it's a lonely experience. My question is, if they're never better, does that really mean that there wasn't enough love to be okay with me if I didn't say yes? Like, if they don't come around, if the only way I can have a relationship with them is to be a yes person, and they want nothing to do with the new no person, no matter how kind or how it's put out there, like, what do you conclude? Or what do I conclude? Because I'm struggling with that.
Well, okay, let me just check out a couple of things with you, because I'm feeling some stuff from you. I'm feeling a lot of sadness right now. Okay? These are people you love and need and want in your life, and they withdraw love when you show an opinion or a difference. Have you had open discussions with these people about, it's just important that I be able to disagree and still feel loved by you? Have you had the conversations with them, like several?
It's so hard to have conversations because they're, well, I mean, my mind just keeps bouncing to different ones because it's not just one. It's my mother, my two sisters, my nephew that I raised as my child.
Well, let me rephrase the question.
Having a discussion.
Like, yeah, what did they do when you, I mean, do you try to say, look, I want to love you and you love me, but I like to make choices and disagree? Have you been that direct with them?
They just pretend that's not the issue. Or like my mother won't stand up to, like she's just I don't know why you're trying to do this to me. Like she's going to be such a victim that she won't stand up to the question. My older sister will disappear. My nephew will just be so angry and combative and insist that it's something else or it's me, that it's just exhausting. And after 47 years, I'm tired and I can't go back. So I just don't know what to conclude.
And Jesus said, who are my mother and brother and sisters but those who do the will of God? Christine, what if I were to tell you that you might be drinking from a trough that's very, very limited in nurturing you and growing you, and that you might need to get other troughs to be loved by?
My head knows.
But not the heart.
It's just so hard to accept. And hard to replace at 47, like to start over with new. Like, it's hard.
It is hard. Let me tell you how this works. You don't give them up. You add to the mix of the people you let in your life. If you've got to spend, I don't know, 7 hours a week with your mother, then for a while you do that. If you've got to spend 4 hours a week with your sister who runs away, then maybe you do that. I wouldn't stay around a rageaholic male. But if you have to feel like have to be around these people to feel centered and okay and like you belong, then you do that. But you start scheduling in, and I mean scheduling in, phone calls and visits and text and emails with people like maybe on your team here at the Institute and other people. You don't need a whole lot. That's what the whole book's about that's coming out in June. But you've got to begin adding to that, because you really can't let go of the toxic until you add the healthy. Nobody can cut themselves off from their family and say, well, I'm in a desert now, whoopie-doo. It's just too hurtful. You must add to that, and then what will happen is your brain will start going, oh, I disagreed and they liked me, and I texted that person, they were kind to me when I had an opinion, and you begin to feel full inside and loved inside and like you belong, and then you start putting up with less and less and less from the family. Most of the time people don't leave their family and never see them again. No, we're supposed to love our family, but here's the difference. There's a difference between loving these people and needing these people. And I'm going to say that again. Love your family, and the good ones that are healthy need them. But there's people in your life, guys and Cynthia, you've got to love them, see them for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and go see them and hang out with their kids. But you better not need them, because you can't drink from a trough that's got poison in it. Love people who don't need them, but find the right people. So that's kind of the answer. And I'm going to pray for you right now. God, I just lift up Christine. 47 years of only being loved when you're compliant is not really good for her, and it's breaking her heart and it's breaking her up. But she's so scared because they're kind of all she's got. And I pray that you will bring people to Cynthia that love her, know and love her freedom and love her opinion and love her decisions and love her boundaries just as much as when she's compliant, and bring them around so that she can replace what's inside in your name on it. Thank you for being courageous. All right.
That was really touching.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, Christine's situation is way too common, and we've got to learn the principle of replacement and love versus need, and then everything changes. But it's so hard. It's just so hard. Anyway, Aaron, hello, buddy.
Hello, Aaron, Santa Maria, California. When working with various ego states of an individual, is there any danger, and like working with different parts, is there any danger of increasing disintegration and rather than those brain pathways connecting and the integration happening if overdone?
Are you talking about DIDD?
Like ego state, like in this case, I guess DID being on the far end, but like there being a lot of stuff in between, so it doesn't have to just be DID. There could be that just the regular ego states as well as the DID. So maybe if you could address
Give me an
those.
example of a non-DIDD ego state that you'd be working with. Are you seeing people in the office with these right now?
Well, I'm not in the office, but I am seeing individuals, just more like friends and practice type stuff.
Because a DIDD has a cohesive personality that has its own, idea and IDs, blah blah blah. So tell me an example of a non-DIDD ego state person that I can get a feel for.
Okay. So like when they come into like the age of like you attune to sadness, and then their face changes, they begin to cry, they kind of begin to get smaller, act smaller, look smaller, but it's not like a totally split off personality, but it's just the facial expressions change, the body posture changes, and it's like they become like a 4, 5, 6-year-old in their looks and in the way that they act at that time, soft voice.
Yeah, they get lost in experience, and it's kind of a temporary regression. So the question is, what is it? How do you keep out of danger?
So like getting those core emotional learnings like into the session seems to be very important so that they can get healed and transformed and integrated. So I'm just wondering if like different experientials, this part in this chair, this part in this chair, they talk to one another, and like I know that's very important and useful. I'm wondering can it be overdone where it like where it kind of disintegrates the mind, or is those things just such integration experiences that it ends up the transformation happens? And,
well, one thing that I don't know what courses you've taken on this, I don't know which courses in, but we teach you how to assess ego strength.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm in that course right now.
So if you've got a person who is prone to splitting or psychosis, severe BPT, DIDD, no, you have to be very careful about that and err on the side of, if you start to see things like strong anxiety that doesn't go away quickly, or it doesn't go away when you've left the session. Again, they've got really bad dreams, they can't function, this sort of thing. Yeah, you just got to pull back, because the mantra is you want to give them experiences of integration past the point of comfort, but not until they can't function. So a person a person says after they come back and sees, they say, had a couple of bad dreams about it, and I had a couple of conversations, and I prayed about it. I go, well, that's work. Okay, that's just normal. It wasn't comfortable, but it didn't make you non-functional. If they say, hey, I couldn't get out of bed, and I drank a fifth of vodka every week, and I thought I was Napoleon, okay, we went too far. So you just move iteratively in graduated increments of what they can tolerate without loss of functioning, and you're fine. Always look for functioning and attachment. If they stay connected to you and other people, and if they're functioning, but it's uncomfortable, you're fine. And it does a world of good towards integrating.
Thank you so much. That's great. So seeing the fruit after the session. Awesome. Thank you very much.
All righty. Scott?
Okay, buddy. We're there. Who's the question of the night?
Well, before I say that, I'm really kind of emotional right now. I think Cynthia triggered a lot of us. And I just want everybody to remember that the Bible tells us in Psalms that God makes a home for the lonely. That home is the right people. That home's your life team. That home is the people that get you and like your vulnerability and like your assertiveness. So God's on your side. I don't care what the crazy people do, but I know God's on your side, and use the body. So, all right. Having said that, oh my gosh, there's so many great questions tonight.
Yeah, I don't envy you tonight, my friend.
I know.
I mean, my empathic statement would be, sucks to be you.
Which is why you are such a key part of my family.
I know. I know. I'm such a support.
Let's see what we got here. Oh my gosh.
You better add to me, buddy. I think you better add.
Really, it just shows how you guys are really getting the material you're using, and it's transforming you and other people. And I mean, it's really exciting to see. But let me get back to work here.
Yeah, they are.
Well, there's a bunch of number twos here. A bunch of number twos. But Cynthia. Thank you, Cynthia.
You mean the last person you talked to? Christine. Cindy.
It was Christy? Christine. Yes,
Christine.
I'm sorry. Christine? Yeah, you sort of helped us all down the path, and I thank you. And it was the question that I think moved the most of us to help us. So you tell Scott, you go on Amazon, find something with my name on it, and tell Scott, and he'll get it to me, and I'll sign something nice to you, and we'll get it to you. God bless you.
Yep, you're right. Tons of things in the chat, how it helped other people in similar situations. So, yay, Christine. Any final things?
Any what?
If not, I said, so usually you want to say any final thing, or you can just say goodnight?
Well, hey, thank you guys for breaking the bank here. And there's so many of you now that we're going to get more bandwidth for this. So our geniuses are fixing it, and we love you guys, and it's a great problem to have. And we're going to keep delivering value to you. We believe in you, and we thank you for trusting us in the Institute. So that's it.
Okay. See, maybe I should play the Waltons. We say goodnight, John boys. So everyone's going to get on. Well, this we may crash this puppy because we're still like upper 80s. So the squares are going to get pretty small. We need to take a picture of this and put it on the website.
Yes. You guys are the best advertisement for what we do right there.
Uh,
Because everybody's like growing and good looking and all that stuff.
Okay, it's great seeing everyone.
Night, guys. Take care.
It's great to gather as a family every couple of months, so that's really cool. So, okay, we'll see you tomorrow night, John. And we'll see you.